You are now listening to Surelgar MD.
Hey guys, Sorel MD. Let's start talking about RVUs. This is something that you need to have an understanding of. See, a lot of people want to rush out and start talking about how much money they might make as a radiologist, but few people, in fact, understand how much money per RVU they're expected to make. This is extremely important to know. You need to know how hard you're going to be working for what type of compensation. Knowing about RVUs is going to make you sound more informed and intelligent when you're at the bargaining table. So RVU stands for Relative Value Unit. And the term RVU is actually composed of three internal components. There's a physician work component, a practice location component, and a malpractice expense component. And I would say, just to kind of cut to the chase, in general, when people are talking about RVUs, they're really talking about the physician work RVU or the work RVU, also abbreviated WRVU. So we're talking about work RVUs or WRVUs. This is the variable that you have the most control over as a physician. So in basic terms, an RVU is exactly what it sounds like. It's a relative value unit of work. It's a widget. This number is used to define how much you are working relative to others in your specialty and relative to others in different specialties. All right? And it's sort of like this. If you owned a Subway sandwich shop, you would be very interested in knowing how many sandwiches you produce in a day. And the work RVU is sort of a measure that tells you, as a radiologist, how many sandwiches you're creating in a day. And as you can guess, the amount of sandwiches that you can produce in a day is going to be related to the amount of value that you create and the amount of money that you can eventually earn or be compensated for. So we're talking about relative value units. We're talking about averages. Okay, we need to know what are average values for this number. So here's a question. What's the average number of RVUs generated by a radiologist in a mid-sized group? And if you look at some surveys, you'll get a number of about 9,000. So 9,000 work RVUs per radiologist per year. All right. To figure out how many RVUs we're talking about per day, we have to divide by the number of working days. So you take 365 days, you subtract your 100 weekend days, and you take off about 40 to 65 days of vacation. Basically, we've got about 200 working days in a year. And if you divide that out by 9,000, you're going to get 45 work RVUs per day. So basically, another way to say this is if you're a radiologist in the mid-sized practice, you could be expected to create about 45 work RVUs per day. So what does that mean? How does that translate into how many cases you're going to be reading per day? So the answer is that it varies and it's a little bit complex, but it's not that hard to figure out. Every case that you perform as a radiologist, whether it's a CT, an MRI, a CAT scan, it's all assigned a CPT code. All right, CPT stands for Current Procedural Terminology. This is an entire data set that is maintained and I believe trademarked by the American Medical Association. So every type of case that you're reading, like a CT appel with contrast, a CT appel without contrast, a CT pulmonary angiogram, or even interventional cases like, say, tunneled central venous access with port, these cases are all assigned CPT codes. And with a bit of Googling, you can easily find out exactly what the number is. I believe it's a 5-digit number. You can find out what these CPT codes are. There's another search engine, which I'll provide some information on. There's a search engine on the Medicare website, which you can type in the CPT code and then find out what the RVU is that's associated with that case. So, for example, CT appel with contrast, one of the most common cases, one of my most favorite cases to read. This is worth about 1.82 work RVUs. So if we divide that out by 45, you'd figure out that in a day you'd have to read 25 CT appels to be the average radiologist in a mid-sized group. Now, of course, as radiologists, we don't get to read just CT appels every day. We have to read a mix of modalities. Every case has a different RVU assigned to it. So, for example, I believe an interventional case like a port insertion, a tunnel venous line with port, that's worth about 4 work RVUs. A chest CT, for example, is worth about 1 or 1.1 work RVUs. A plain film is generally going to be worth less RVUs. Plain film of the extremity, like a knee plain film, is going to be worth about 0.2 work RVUs. So you can figure out that depending on what you're reading, what type of mix of cases you're reading, and how fast you're reading, you might have to read anywhere from 40 to 90 or more mixed modality cases in order to make that or hit that number of 45 work RVUs per day. Now here's the other thing. Every practice is going to be a little bit different in how many work RVUs per day you're expected to read. So you might be in a high-volume private practice where they're very efficient at getting through cases and providing service to a large number of hospitals, and you might be expected to read more than average. You might be expected to read somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 80 work RVUs per day. if you're interested in overnight teleradiology, these radiologists tend to read more cases. It might be in the neighborhood of 100 work RVUs per night. Now keep in mind, every RVU is going to be different. The cases that a teleradiologist reads might be different because they're going to be reading a majority of ER cases that may be majority may be negative, and there may be a few positive cases. And that's going to be different than, say, an academic radiologist who's reading very complex cases and being asked to provide very complicated reads for surgeons and other specialists. And those radiologists may be able to take some more time to provide that delicate level of patient care that's needed in those high-level academic centers. Some more information, I'd be happy to share some tables I've made of RVUs and CPT codes that are important to me as a diagnostic interventional radiologist. You need to know ultimately how hard you have to work in order to create the type of lifestyle that you're looking for as a radiologist. So that's all I got for now, guys. Sorrel MD, take it easy.